We're rolling.
We're not rolling.
Yes, we are. Hey, welcome to Mega Strange, everybody. Guess who's back? Johnny, back from the dead.
Wait, I gotta put my cool glasses on.
I'm wiping my face off because we just got food. But, you know, we're all fueled up now and ready for today's episode. Johnny, have you played The Last of Us?
I played the first one, never played the second one.
Ooh, we're going to talk about that later. Leave a comment in the chat if you are angry that he never played The Last of Us Part 2. Why didn't you play the second one?
When it came out, like everyone was just so angry about it and annoying that I told myself I'll never play it.
Johnny just called you annoying. Leave a comment down below if you're mad at him. I'm just kidding. Don't leave any comments, actually. If you have a problem,
zero comments.
Yeah, no comments, please. Only positive comments only. Did you watch The Last of Us TV show?
Yes.
What'd you think of that?
I thought it was pretty good. I think it started decent. In the middle it gets a little whatever. I would give it like a 90%.
90% on Johnny Tomatoes.
Johnny Tomatoes.
Well,
shouts out.
Today's episode is about The Last of Us happening in real life.
Dude, I'm glad you're doing this because I saw a TikTok about this the other day and my heart sank.
Yeah, I'm going to warn everybody. This is, in my opinion, the most horrifying topic I've ever researched with Mega Strange.
Oh, God.
Literally, I was in bed doing research on my phone about this, and I wanted to pull the covers up over my face. I got so scared. What was being described to me was horrifying.
Yeah, the thing I saw, the news piece I saw, the person kept saying, "This isn't another COVID-19. Just be warned. It's not.
Yeah,
it's okay." And then they followed up with the most horrific shit I've ever heard.
It's way worse than the pandemic we have previously experienced.
Yeah.
Today we're going to talk about a fungus, a mushroom, taking over the world and wiping out humanity. This is the plot to The Last of Us.
Yeah.
And so we're going to go through The Last of Us. We're going to go through the development of The Last of Us. How did they come up with this idea? And then we're going to talk about the real world situation that is mirroring the plot of this science fiction horror film.
I thought you were going to say there's a fungus among us before.
A fungus among us. Very sus. Well, let's get it started by talking about the development of The Last of Us, the very first game. So obviously, not obviously, you may or may not know this, but The Last of Us was written and created by a guy named Neil Druckmann.
Classic Neil Druckmann.
Who
had worked on Uncharted prior?
Yeah, he worked for Naughty Dog and had worked on a couple of projects. But Neil Druckmann was the creative director. And the other parent of this baby known as The Last of Us was the game's director, not creative director, but actual director, game director, a guy by the name of Bruce Straley.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley and what they contributed to the creation of The Last of Us, the video game. And then what later went on to become the HBO hit TV show.
Yeah. Also
by the name of The Last of Us. Did you know that Druckmann came up with the idea for The Last of Us way back in 2004?
Okay.
I guess we're roughly the same age because I graduated high school in 2003 and started college in 2004.
Wow.
Neil Druckmann must have been a way better student than I was because he was at Carnegie Mellon University.
Oh, wow.
In 2004. And Druckmann had a class where he was tasked with creating a video game concept to present to George A. Romero.
Ooh.
You may remember George A. Romero from our episode a few weeks back, George A. Romero's Resident Evil. Of course, George A. Romero was the creator of Night of the Living Dead. And I guess after, the failed Resident Evil movie, he was just really into video games.
Oh, yeah.
He had to watch that VHS playthrough of Resident Evil. Yeah, he was like, hey, these video games, they're pretty good. Maybe I should make my own video game. George A. Romero later went on to make Madden 19.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which is why that game was
Madden 19.
so horrific. No, Druckmann was going to present a video game idea to George Romero with everybody else in the class, and then Romero would pick a winner. So Druckmann's idea for a video game originally was to merge the gameplay of Ico, but set it during a zombie apocalypse, similar to Romero's Night of the Living Dead. Can you already see how this is the seeds of The Last of Us?
This is the second time Ico has literally changed someone's life. The guy who created Dark Souls, he played Ico and immediately quit his job.
Have you ever played Ico?
No, I've always wanted to.
It's a PlayStation 2 game.
Yeah.
I played Ico. I beat it. It's a short game. You can beat it in like 8 hours, 10 hours.
I think they remastered it for... No, that's Shadow of the Colossus. I've always wanted to play it.
It's definitely worth checking out. It's a simple game, and it might not hold up by today's standards. But back in 2001, it was like groundbreaking. The lead character was going to be similar to the character of John Hartigan from the Sin City series, the Frank Miller comic book.
Okay.
So the lead character would be a police officer who would be tasked with protecting a young girl. However, due to a heart condition, the players would often assume control of the young girl, reversing the roles of like who's actually protecting who here. The idea did not win. I guess George Romero was like, that sucks.
I mean, in that era of George Romero, I don't think he was really...
I'm working on something called Land of the Dead.
Yeah, he didn't really have his finger on the pulse.
Yeah, maybe you're right. George Romero always wanted to do something with like social commentary.
Yeah.
So maybe he's like, where's the social commentary?
Which is crazy because I feel like Last of Us now has a lot of social commentary.
It's also interesting how you could create something for somebody as famous as George Romero and they're like, yeah, I don't like it, but it still goes on to be a great, successful, groundbreaking idea.
I would have quit after that if George Romero told me my idea sucked. So shouts out to Neil Druckmann for continuing on.
Well, you got to believe in yourself.
You got to believe.
Nobody's going to believe in you until you believe in yourself. That's the lesson of today's episode of Mega Strange. So after the idea didn't win, Druckmann pitched it as a 6-issue comic book called The Turning. So The Last of Us was almost a comic book. He completed a script for this comic book, but again was turned down by indie comic book publishers. So that's 2 people who told him the idea for The Last of Us sucked.
Wow.
George Romero and the comic book publishers. Imagine being the comic book publisher being like, we almost fucking had this.
Yeah. We
almost fucking had this HBO show.
Dude, I bet all the people around Neil Druckmann were like, dude, just give up. Come on, man. You got just come up with a different idea. You're a smart guy.
Yeah. So Druckmann went on to get a job with Naughty Dog and worked on what's that game? Uncharted, yes. Which basically was like Naughty Dog's only thing for a while.
Kinda, yeah. They went, Crash Bandicoot in the beginning, and then Jak and Daxter was like their big thing, and then after Jak and Daxter was Uncharted was like they like rebranded. And
well, the thing with Naughty Dog was they would only focus on one game at a time.
Oh yeah.
So when it came to The Last of Us, that was the first time ever that they actually split up into 2 teams and started developing 2 games at once, which would be Uncharted 3 and The Last of Us at the same time. Neil Druckmann was put in charge of coming up with the story for The Last of Us, and he revisited this idea that he had pitched to George Romero, The Turning. But listen to this. The early concept for the game was something titled Mankind. Shouts out to my favorite wrestler.
Yeah.
In which the infection, why is it called Mankind? Because the infection only spreads to women. The story followed the journey of a man protecting the only immune woman to bring her to a lab to create a potential cure.
Sounds like someone watched Children of Men.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Well, definitely.
Yeah.
Uncredited, the influence of Alfonso Cuarón's Children of Men, which it came out in 2006, is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yeah, it's fucking badass.
I love that movie. If you haven't seen Children of Men, go watch it.
That makes so much sense because the beginning of Last of Us is a shot that's like fully in a car.
Just like Children of Men.
Yeah.
The concept was soon scrapped after female Naughty Dog employees voiced their concerns, and the game was deemed misogynistic.
Hell yeah.
They probably played this demo and they're like, so I'm a guy. I'm going around with a baseball bat just bashing women in the face.
Wait, the zombies were women?
The infection only affected women. So men in the game were fine, but every woman you came across, they're like, whoa, yo, you look at a little, hold on. Boom, boom. Yeah, we gotta kill her. We gotta kill all these women around here.
That's like when the trailer for RE5 came out and it was like, everyone was like, these Japanese devs didn't realize it's just a white guy mowing down black people. That's kind of bad.
Oh, they knew.
They knew? Oh, no.
I mean, I don't know. The game explores the concept of human infection caused by the Cordyceps fungus.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of the Cordyceps fungus?
I
mean, if you play The Last of Us,
yes,
you probably get it.
It's the one that can control ants, right?
Yeah, the Cordyceps fungus primarily infects insects.
Yeah.
By taking control of their motor functions and forcing them to cultivate more of the fungus.
Yeah.
We'll explain more of this later as we go on in this episode. The Cordyceps idea that the infected were actually being controlled by this mushroom was inspired by a segment that Druckmann had seen on the BBC nature show Planet Earth.
Ooh.
Though the fungus mainly affects insects, taking control of their motor functions and forcing them to cultivate, the game explores the concept of the fungus evolving and infecting humans, which has the direct result of causing this outbreak of this infection. So, the game doesn't actually explain what caused the fungus to evolve. In the video game, that's never explored. Game director Bruce Straley said that this was a purposeful choice by the development team so that they could focus on the characters as opposed to getting mixed up in the science of what this fungus is.
Which is funny because the show then dives into it.
Oh, yeah. They prefer to explain the events through subtext rather than explicitly explaining what caused the infection.
I always feel like that type of storytelling is really great in video games. I hate being like bashed over the head by story. I like sorry to always bring up Dark Souls, but like when you like walk into a place in Dark Souls, like, oh, what happened here? And you can kind of figure it out, but they never tell you like, oh, this guy died here or anything.
Yeah, it kind of lends an air of realism to it because in real life, a lot of times you don't get an explanation. You're just kind of left to discover the aftermath and piece together what happened.
I love that.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting take too. And obviously it's a break away from how video games were designed up until that point. The team wanted to use the concept of the infected to force players to explore the limits of human perseverance, which is the main theme of the game. And throughout the development, the team assured everyone that the infected were strictly different from zombies. He must have got really like pissed off by George Romero being like, it's just fucking zombies, bro. You just stole my ideas. No, it's not. It's not zombies. People are sick of zombies. But yeah, as you said, earlier this year, the Last of Us TV show debuted on HBO, and they did explore what caused the fungus to evolve.
Yeah, I feel like in a TV show medium, you kind of have to dive into that stuff, where in video games, you could kind of just be vague.
Yeah, so in the TV show of The Last of Us, they did a really interesting take. They opened the show with a scene that depicts like a 1960s style talk show where a couple of viral epidemiologists, experts, are discussing different viruses and global threats, essentially. And there is an expert on fungus on The Last of Us TV show who theorizes that Cordyceps could evolve due to global warming.
Okay.
And evolve to exist in higher temperatures. They go on to say that the reason that we don't have a fungal infection the same way that these insects do is that the fungus can't survive in our higher temperature bodies. Our bodies will naturally burn out the infection. But if the planet's temperature continues to rise, it could force these fungi, however you want to say it, to be more resistant to the higher temperatures and therefore becoming more resilient to treatment and infect humans now due to their higher temperature tolerance. Kind of crazy. So how do cordyceps work? That's the question. That's what they explore on the BBC show Planet Earth. Let me tell you.
Okay.
So a cordyceps, this is going to sound very scientific, but basically the cordyceps invades the host with spores. Spores would land on you.
Mhm.
And eventually the spores would start to spread and it would replace your tissue with mycelium, which is kind of like the white veining out flesh of fungus, you know?
Yeah.
So it literally like grows into you and eats your own tissue and replaces your tissue with the fungal tissue. It's interesting because as they say in the opening of The Last of Us, LSD is a fungus. Psilocybin, magic mushrooms, is also a fungus.
Oh yeah.
And so we know that fungus has a really distinct and powerful effect on the mind of humans. But it also has an effect on the mind of these insects that it takes over. So one spore can land on an insect and begin to infect the bug, causing it to behave strangely. And you kind of mentioned that it affects ants.
Yeah.
It does. And what it does in the case of these jungle ants, it will start making the ant hallucinate. I actually don't know how the cordyceps work, how it controls the ants' minds.
Dude, this shit is so terrifying.
But it forces the ants to leave their natural habitat and climb up reeds of grass or other plants. And it always makes the ants go, on average, 25 centimeters above the ground.
Okay.
The ants just naturally seek out 25 centimeters above the ground, where there's a certain layer of heat and dampness. It's the perfect conditions for the fungus to grow. The fungus knows the perfect conditions for itself to grow, and it forces the ant to take it there.
Can I just add this real quick? Not to meander.
Yeah.
But people always talk about like, oh, like, does alien life exist? To me, like stuff like this is alien. Like that of viruses, to me, maybe that's the kind of alien species that exists. It's just like, how do these things just know to like recreate themselves like that?
When you look at fungi, it's neither plant nor animal.
Exactly.
But it's something halfway in between.
Yeah.
There's this great new documentary on Netflix all about fungi, and it talks about kind of the weird properties that fungi have. And you could argue that these things are intelligent.
Oh, yeah.
It talked about, one of the things I saw is that that trees can communicate with each other through a neural network of fungi, where they can actually divert like food and nutrition from one tree to another through these fungal neural networks. This stuff is wild.
That's what I'm saying. Like, people are always focused, like, what's in space? I'm like, there's crazy shit on Earth.
And, fungus and spores can potentially travel through space as well. And
exactly.
Like, land on a planet like Earth, a little ball of water, and start cultivating, and all kinds of weird shit will start happening.
A lot of people believe that humanity started from like that, like a rogue amoeba on a fucking asteroid hitting Earth.
Could be real.
Yeah.
Could be true. So the ants will climb up to 25 centimeters, and then they will clamp down with their mandible onto the grass or the plant in what is known as a death bite. Mm-hmm. And they will lock themselves into the plant holding it. And then they'll die there.
Yeah.
But then the fungi will feed off of the corpse of the insect, and it will grow to maturity, and it will eventually start to fruit. It'll grow out, it'll turn to a fruit, and then it will release more spores to infect more ants. And this fungus can wipe out entire colonies if it's not taken care of. So ants, when they see another ant that's infected with a cordyceps, they will actually drag the corpse of that ant off of the tree. They'll release it from its dead bite and drag it far away from the colony, because the ants even know that this thing is going to wipe them all out. We don't think of ants as being intelligent.
Oh, they're so intelligent. Yeah.
But they will, they'll go full zombie mode on these infected fellow ants.
Do you get into the viral marketing at all for The Last of Us in your
No.
research? Before the game got released, It just like Naughty Dog was like a new game is coming, and then just showed footage from that BBC documentary of the ants, and that was it.
Oh, really?
They're just like a new game's coming, and just would show that footage.
Well, check this out. There are over 600 different types of cordyceps.
Oh my god!
And each one of them is specific to one species of insect host. There's 600 different types of cordyceps. There's one for this kind of ant. There's one for this kind of caterpillar. There's one for this kind of wasp. There's one for this kind of spider. And just think about that just think if there's 600 different insect species out there and they each have their own specific type of cordyceps that can do this to them.
Yeah.
So it's not that far of a stretch to imagine that there could be a cordyceps someday that is specific to humans. And that is the idea of The Last of Us. Some scientists theorize that these cordyceps they serve this purpose in nature to ensure that no one bug species can overtake the other ones. That if a population starts to get too big, too crowded, these cordyceps will naturally swoop in there, being attracted to these large populations and start wiping out these colonies. Maybe it could do it to a major city full of humans. Who knows? So that's how cordyceps work.
Yeah.
And that is also the basis of the show, The Last of Us. This idea that maybe global warming will make these cordyceps evolve, and the cordyceps will be able to survive in our human bodies, which are much hotter and sexier than insect bodies.
And then the part that terrified me the most in the show is that they say that it infected the wheat supply. So people started eating it and then getting infected.
That's what they said in the show?
Yeah. They show us, like they tell a scientist, they're like, it infected the wheat. And then they're like, what do we do? And she says, all we can do is pray.
Yeah, I could see that because yeast is a fungus as well.
Yeah.
And, well, let me just hit you with the realness.
Sure.
Let's just get real, and let's get real terrifying for a second.
Oh, no.
There is a real life fungus.
Yes.
That has, in the last 10 years, become known to scientists. And it has evolved due to global warming to start taking out humans.
Yep.
This is 100% true. I saw one scientist quote, and he said, due to global warming, the planet Earth has essentially been turned into a petri dish.
Oh.
And that new forms of fungus are coming out and coming for us. This species of fungus is called Candida auris. And it grows as a yeast. Like you just said. Yep. It could infect the wheat. It is one of the few genus of Candida which causes candidiasis in humans. Candidiasis is when a fungus basically does what cordyceps do. It starts latching onto your flesh and just replacing it with some fungus. Some people show like their tongues being covered in like white yeast. Also, a yeast infection is a form of candidiasis.
Yeah.
Often, candidiasis is acquired in hospitals by patients with weakened immune systems. But this kind of fungus, this new fungus, Candida auris, can cause something. It's an invasive form of this disease, this infection, which is known as fungemia. And that is when the fungus invades your bloodstream, your central nervous system, and your internal organs. Just think about that. This white fuzzy stuff that's growing on your tongue, it's growing on your mouth, it's growing on your groin, it's in your blood system, it's affecting the nerves, it's going through your spine, it's growing into your internal organs.
Oh, God.
This is where it started getting really scary for me. And then as I went on researching, I was like, oh my God, we're all going to die from this someday. In the future. This is how we're all going to end up.
I watched
we're all going to turn into fucking mold from the inside out.
I watched a news article about this, and it was like, it's here in San Diego. And it was like,
shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and then it said, don't worry, it only affects the elderly and the unwell. And I was like, that's what you said about COVID. And
Yeah. And also, we're all going to be elderly and unwell
Yeah,
someday.
exactly.
So I am worried.
yeah.
The reason Candida auris has attracted widespread attention is because it has something called multi-drug resistance.
Yeah.
It's immune to many of the fungicides that exist to kill such infections. It's evolved. It's immune to it. Treatment is also complicated because this form of fungus is often easily misidentified.
I bet.
Here's where it came from. In 2009, this fungus, Candida auris, was first identified for the first time ever in the history of the planet inside the ear canal of a 70-year-old Japanese woman at the Tokyo Metropolitan Geriatric Hospital in Japan.
Oh my God.
Imagine being that woman.
Yeah.
You're patient zero for this thing that's probably going to wipe out humanity someday.
I don't. My heart is racing right now.
At the time, the fungus was not fatal, but it was just bizarre. It's like you have this weird fungus growing in your ear. And imagine the doctors are like, you're like, well, what is it, doctor? Because I can't hear anything because my ear's getting all stuffed up with this fungus growth. They're like, we don't know what it is. And we're having trouble killing it or giving you anything that can take care of it. It was isolated, and they really took note of it actually because of its presence, despite this woman being given medication to cure it. She was given a fungicide, but it did not work. And so they established it as a new strain of fungus, which they called Candida auris. The first 3 cases of disease-causing Candida auris were reported 2 years later in South Korea. There were 3 cases. So at first you have this 70-year-old woman, and then that starts spreading. But it's just a fungus. It's not making you sick. It's not killing you. It's just kind of like persistent.
Yeah.
They can't get rid of it with a cure or medication, but they're like, well, I mean, it sucks that this fungus is growing and we can't kill it, but it's not really doing anything to people. 2 years later, it starts causing fungemia.
Yep.
Like we already described, infecting the blood system, affecting the nervous system. Well, all 3 cases had persistent fungemia, i.e. a bloodstream infection from those South Korea, those 3 patients. 2 of the patients died from the complications. So 2 out of 3 of these, there were 3 patient zeros of the disease-causing version. 2 of them died. And notably, the fungus in all 3 of them was misidentified. So the doctors thought it was something else and prescribed drugs for it, and it wasn't what they thought it was. It was a new breed of fungus. These first 3 cases identify the importance of accurate species identification and the timely application of the correct antifungal for the effective treatment of what came to be known as Candida auris. During that time, from 2009 to 2011, even though those first 3 patients were in South Korea, the fungus spread at the same time to India, where 12 patients were discovered to be infected with it. So you can see how it's spreading, first in Japan, then South Korea, 1 person in Japan, 3 people in South Korea, 12 people in India. And every time it was found in the same distinct setting: hospitals, intensive care units, surgical, medical, oncological, neonatal, pediatric wards. Places where they're doing surgery, places where they're giving birth. Most of the people who were infected with this fungus had persistent candidemia, which is the disease, and the mortality rate that was observed was very high.
Do we know the symptoms of this? Because I'm sitting here like I have this. I'm like the whole time, like I'm gonna die.
I might have the symptoms in
Okay.
this story, but that would be coming a little later.
Okay.
All of the people who had this fungus, all of them were misidentified. They all thought it was something else. It was only later when they would do a DNA sequencing analysis that they would discover, holy shit, this is a whole new breed of fungus. So oftentimes you have this thing and the doctors are like, we know what you got, and they're totally wrong. And you don't know any better because they don't know any better because it's fucking brand new.
I know this stuff has been getting so widespread. I just hope that we can figure out how to destroy it. I don't know.
The Indian researchers wrote in 2013 that they believed that Candida auris was way more prevalent than the published reports probably indicated, since most diagnostic laboratories do not have the proper identification resources to do a DNA sequence analysis. So their theory is like, this thing is probably infecting way more people than we know because it's extremely hard to identify. The fungus spread to other continents and eventually, and this is where it gets really scary, a multi-drug resistant strain was discovered in Southeast Asian countries in early 2016. So in only about 7 years, this fungus became resistant to treatment. This fungus is among us and it's not going anywhere. The first report of a Candida auris outbreak in Europe was October of 2016 in the Royal Brompton Hospital, which is a London cardiothoracic hospital. I'm just remembering that I did read about some of these symptoms and I don't even want to talk about, like, it's fucking scary.
I'm just thinking about how we just ate in a place full of old people and I'm like, damn, all those old people probably were in hospitals recently and I'm probably just got infected with the fucking cordyceps. I'm going to die.
Within a year,
my brain is racing right now.
Within a year of the European outbreak, one of the leading pandemic researchers in the world, a woman named Anne Schuchat, named Candida auris a catastrophic threat to humanity. And that was back in 2017. In May of 2017, the CDC released a report that 77 cases of Candida auris had been discovered in the United States. And I'll repeat that fact. In May of 2017, there were 77 cases of this in the United States. And of these 77 cases, 69 of them,
died.
We're from New York City. We're from New York and New Jersey.
Oh.
Yeah, your hometown.
Yeah, well, I guess I avoided it then. I could avoid that shit now.
That was May of 2017. By August 2019, the cases in the United States had risen to 806 in just 2 years, more than 10 times as many cases. 388 reports from New York, 137 reports of the fungus in New Jersey, 227 in Illinois, according to the CDC. In the United Kingdom, since it was first observed, the fungus has spread to more than 20 hospitals and has infected 200 people. As of April 2019, the CDC documented cases of Candida auris in Australia, Austria, Belgium, Canada, China, Colombia, France, Germany, India, Iran, Israel, Japan, Kenya, Kuwait, Malaysia, Mexico, the Netherlands, Norway, Oman, Pakistan, Panama, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, South Africa, South Korea, Spain, Switzerland, Taiwan, Thailand, the United Arab Emirates, the United Kingdom, the United States, and Venezuela.
Sounds like a Marvel release. Marvel movie release.
It's way more infectious than a Marvel movie release.
It's more global.
Candida auris fungus is a multi-drug resistant fungal infection that spreads in hospitals and is extremely deadly. It kills as many as 1 in 3 people who get it. 1 in 3. That survival rate is
bad.
Heinous, dude. If you and me and one other person got it, one of us is dying from it.
I was always, I mean, I don't know too much about this, but like, yeah, on the news they kept saying, it takes out elderly people pretty easily. But like, so does the flu. I don't know. I'm just trying to stay positive.
What studies suggest is that this is the beginning of fungi adapting to higher temperatures, as was described in the fucking show The Last of Us. Fiction is becoming reality. Art, life is imitating art.
The second Last of Us got kind of fucked because it came out in 2020. And I feel like if they ever make a third one, it's gonna also be like we're actually dealing with this cordyceps shit. It's like, oh god.
Scientists suggest that we are going to have more and more problems with this fungus and other fungi as the century goes on and global warming continues to rise. Global warming will lead to the selection of fungal lineages that are more thermally tolerant. Literally, science is echoing what The Last of Us said was true. And check this out. Due to what happened in 2019, shortages of personal protective equipment, PPE, forced medical personnel to reuse gowns and reuse masks during the pandemic, which contributed exponentially to the spread of the fungus.
Yep.
Are you loving this?
I'm so upset right now. I'll never step foot in a hospital again. Unless I have to.
It gets worse. It gets worse. 2 years ago, in 2021, the CDC here in America identified for the first time ever strains of Candida auris that were immune to all existing medications used to treat fungal infections.
I've heard about this, yeah.
It's immune to all existing medications, which means in the battle against this fungus, we're fucking losing. We have no defense. We have no resources. Yeah. We're going to have to go out there and invent new kinds of medication. And the medication itself is like penicillin is itself a fungus. And so we're going to have to we need to research some shit. And this is where I want to pause and just say we need to fucking take science seriously. I'm tired of this anti-science bullshit. Yeah. I'm tired of all these people out here being like, these scientists, they're paid by big pharma. They don't know what they're talking about. They're bought and paid for. Global warming isn't real. God made this planet. We can do whatever the fuck we want. That bullshit has to end now because we're already losing the battle. We're already losing the battle. And unless we get everybody on board, humanity is going to be fucking gone in 100 years. I
think it'll be a little easier than with, vaccine stuff just because visually you can see this happen as opposed to, the other thing. But my heart did just sink because I'm allergic to penicillin. And so you can't even have
antifungal medication, probably.
Yeah. So
what makes me sad, before I continue with the rest of this story, is we are still, listen, I'm 37 years old currently as of the filming of this. Yeah, I'm middle-aged, but I'm still pretty young.
Yeah.
But we're still in the early stages of this.
Yeah.
And this thing has been around for 14 years. I'm older than this fungus is. I'm more than twice as old. I've been on this planet twice as long as this fungus.
Yeah.
And this fungus has evolved so quickly.
It's going to kick our asses.
In the past 14 years, it's already resistant to all medication. 50 years from now, when I'm 87, where is this fungus going to be? It's going to be
your brain.
It's going to be even more powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing is evolving at such an incredible rate. Right. This is why I get worried, because they're like, it only affects old people and people with weak immune systems. Yeah, but 14 years ago, it didn't affect anybody.
Yeah.
And then 2 years after it was first discovered, it started killing people.
I'm not trusting any of that shit. Post-COVID, I don't trust any of that.
What?
Whenever they say it's not that bad, it's always that bad.
Well, we need to trust science, But we also need to get real about the reality of the situation.
Yeah, I hate when people are like, "Oh, don't be alarmist." It's like, no, I could see the writing on the wall.
I'm not trying to be alarmist. I'm trying to wake up the people who are snoozing on what is really going on out there in this world. They're like, "No, it's all great, dude. I'm looking forward to spring break. I'm not caring about anything. I think I'm gonna try to be a banker. I think I'm gonna try to make $1 billion and just not give a shit about anything." And it's like the world is 2 seconds away from midnight.
The world is a vampire set to drain.
Yes, thank you, Billy Corgan. Researchers have recently published a report that has been tracking the spread of Candida auris from 2019 to 2021, and they've revealed that the fungus was present in over half of American states.
It's in San Diego, I know that.
From 2019 to 2021, that's 2 years. It's spread to half this country. Where are we going to be in 2024? Where are we going to be in 2025? It's probably going to be in every state in America.
That's why I don't trust these news anchors. Like, it's not going to be a COVID-19 situation. It's like, yeah, it is.
Antimicrobial resistance in general is an increasingly common phenomenon, which means our penicillin, our medicine to fight fungal infections, are becoming weaker and less effective as time goes on. We're running out of effective medicine. It's losing its power. This makes me sad because when you look at all of human history, penicillin was not discovered that long ago. I mean, less than 100 years ago. And it's already no longer effective, which means we had this like great golden age of medicine for just a short window on this planet.
Yeah.
And it's already closing. And we're going to go back to like medieval plague times pretty soon. Where we're just going to be like, hey, what do we do? I guess we all die from this disease.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do about it. In 2010, 2 million people were reported to have contracted resistant infections in the United States in 2010, 13 years ago. 2 million people 13 years ago. And back then, 23,000 of them died. More recent estimates from researchers at Washington University School of Medicine put the United States death toll at 162,000 people have died from blood fungus. Blungus. Worldwide fatalities from resistant infections are estimated to be 700,000 per year. We're already at an alarming number, 700,000 people per year. Candida auris is, yes, one of the many microbial contributors to this global antimicrobial resistant estimation. And as of 2023, as of right now, there is no vaccine against Candida auris.
Nope.
That's today's story, everybody.
So, make sure you go out and have a good time while you can.
I wish I had a lighter note to end on, but that's it. Like, The Last of Us is happening. It's happening, and I don't think people are really aware of the spread of this fungus. And apparently it's here in San Diego. 100%. And it's probably in a hospital near you. So that's terrifying. How are you feeling right now?
I'm going to pop my sunglasses on and try to act cool.
Yeah, while you still can. Yeah. I've seen reports of this. The reason why I got into this story was I was just seeing reports of it on the news, and everybody was like, new fungus is spreading over America and the world due to global warming. Does this sound like a plot point from The Last of Us? It's not. It's real. But like you said, people are like, don't worry, because if you have a healthy immune system, it's not going to affect you. But just reading and doing research about this, it's like, yeah, it's not going to affect us for how long? I just feel like we're at this tipping point right now where 700,000 people dying a year. That sounds like it's affecting us. That sounds like it is affecting us.
This is the episode where I'm going to hope someone in the comments is like a fucking fungal expert and can help calm me down on this.
Hey,
So,
if you have some sort of consoling words for Johnny,
please leave them.
leave them in the comments below. If you think global warming is bullshit, leave your arguments in the comment below. But the planet, I mean, we've been told for years, like, hey, global warming is a big problem. People were like, I'll just turn my AC up. But I feel like there's all of these, this ripple effect of things you can't anticipate as the just situation kind of like branches out. It's a butterfly effect. It spreads. And there's all of these things we would never consider that are going to change and be devastating to us.
Evolution.
And we couldn't even fathom how bad it is. And I wish we weren't in this situation. I'm gonna be honest with you. I wish we didn't have to deal with this. But we do have to deal with it. Or else it's gonna deal with us.
Yeah. Did we win any awards from the Parapod Festival?
No.
Okay. Well,
now that you ask, I wasn't going to bring this up, but the Parapod Festival that we were nominated for, by the way, it's awesome just to be nominated. Just to recap, we were nominated for Best Podcast of the Year, Best Host of the Year, Best Ghost Podcast of the Year, and I think another one.
Yeah. UFO, I think.
I can't remember. We were nominated for that, but we didn't make it into the finals.
Okay.
But I think we were finalists in 4 categories. I do believe we were the most nominated podcast that did not win anything that night.
It's rigged.
It might be rigged. But needless to say, it's just nice to be nominated. I think it goes a long way to show that we were nominated across the board for so many things, that this is a great podcast. I don't care if we didn't win an award. And also, Mega 64, my experience is, for whatever reason, we're cursed. We just don't win awards. People like to nominate us and recognize us like, yeah, pretty good. But awards are like a popularity contest. It really is. There was a factor in the nominations was how many fans voted for you. But ultimately, there were judges who decided who the final awards would go to. And
definitely crushed it, and they were like, no.
The winners were all people who attended the festival.
I was going to say.
And spoke at the festival.
Yeah.
And maybe if we would have gone there and shown face and like made friends and rubbed elbows, it would have helped our chances of winning the award. But I wanted to win the award just on the merit of our show. And also, nobody from the festival reached out to us, and I didn't really know who to reach out to them to go to the festival.
Yeah, I didn't know. Apparently, you had to buy tickets, and I'm not going to buy a ticket unless I know I'm winning.
I think it would have been cool if they gave us a free ticket, because then I would have gone. But I'm just a cheapskate, so no hard feelings. It's an honor to be mentioned. We were actually mentioned in Deadline. The Hollywood news.
What?
As a nominee for the festival.
That's cool.
Deadline did a write-up, and so we were in there, for everything we were nominated for. So the word is spreading about how great Mega Strange is.
Hell yeah.
And hello to our new viewers and listeners. If you've come because of our nomination in the Parapod Festivals, we're happy to have you here.
I did see the awards, and I was like, damn, I want one of those.
I wanted one of those awards too. It would be nice to win an award.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't do this for the awards.
I do.
I do it for you. I do it for the viewers. You guys who come in here week in and week out, who love our show and support us. You're the best award of all. And so we thank you for being here. And this is the conclusion of our show.
Yes.
Hey, hit the subscribe button if you can. It really helps us out. And share this episode with somebody who doesn't believe that the world is screwed. And teach them something. If you think there's somebody out there who would like this episode or any episode, feel free to share it with them. Follow us on social media at Mega Strange Podcast on Instagram or Mega Strange 666 on Twitter. You can also follow our individual accounts. Derek Acosta only on Instagram.
I'm at Catboy_Slim. I got my Twitter back. I'm at Johnny13 again, so shouts out.
Yeah, you're going to delete the new Twitter you started, correct?
Oh yeah, I made it private. That's my shit-talking Twitter now.
Oh, nice. I have to be sure to
it's
follow you on that.
Evil Johnny Weiss now.
Well, maybe you can follow that as well. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll be back next week with another more upbeat episode. of Mega Strange. The next one's going to make you smile because this one probably made you cry. Have a nice week. We'll see you next time. Stay strange, everybody.